What up, everybody? Welcome back to the TuVues podcast. Glad to be with y'all this evening. I'm Dr. Keith Davis here and if y'all want to chill in my castle in my little throne room, my office, just chilling here tonight. Had an event tonight, so I'm Keith, ready to spit some information to y'all.
What up, it's KFG. We back again, man. We finna have a topic right here, a deep one for y'all. I hope y'all tune in and listen and really gravitate to what we're saying in this one, because we all got to move in this topic in order for things to happen.
Facts. So, man, y'all know how we do it, man. We jump off in the top five, KFG's top five, man. So I'm gonna let them kick it off and see what our top five is gonna be about tonight.
All right, man. Our top five. We already mentioned this last podcast. We're just gonna do this one. So might as well jump into it, man. We're gonna do top five wrestling tag teams of all time. Top five wrestling tag teams of all time. And I'm going to let Keith go first because I feel like I'm going to have a better, well, mine is kind of trash, but I think it's all right.
Yeah. All right. I'm going to go ahead and throw out my two honorable mentions first. And my two honorable mentions, I'm going to go with the Rock and Sock Connection. Right? I'm going to go Rock and Sock, and then I'm going to go with Book and Goldust. I think those are two underrated tag team factions that didn't get enough credit. So I'm gonna go with Rock and Sock and Book and Goldust as my honorable mentions. But I'm gonna go with my number five. And you already know they was gonna be in my group. You already know it's two of them. I think you already know are gonna be in my group. My number five is gonna be the Steiner brothers. I think those are of course they're Michigan boys. You know what I'm saying? But also I think just their fluidity in the ring. Their ability to work off each other and bounce moves and the game plan of their matches off each other was dynamic. I think I rarely see many tag teams that have the continuity that those two brothers did. Kind of like our podcast. I think they feed off each other. I thought they did a great job. I was kind of mad when they broke them up. Number four, I'm gonna go with the APA. All right, my number four is APA. I think it's another tag team that is severely underrated because when APA music came down, somebody was getting knocked out, right? Something I forgot about APA. Man. Honestly, I'm trying to think about it. I don't even know if I ever remember APA losing. They may have lost when they were Acolytes. But it's APA, and JBL Clothesline from Hell just capped it all off. So I'm gonna go with number four.
But half the time they was in the back drinking beers, being security service,
playing cards, right? Playing poker. You know what I'm saying? So I got to go with APA as my number four. I think that's another underrated. I think this group, my number three, could be number one or number two. But I'm gonna go with the Hardy Boys. I think the Hardy Boys were one of the most exciting tag team groups of all time. I think Jeff Hardy really solidified. I wasn't really a Matt Hardy fan too much. I think Matt did his thing and Jeff just put it over the top. But I think if you wanted an exciting match, you can guarantee the Hardy Boys is going to give you an exciting match. Guaranteed. There's not a boring match that they've had. So I'm going to go with my number three, the Hardy Boys. Now my number one has been recently been
skip your two. What about your two?
I'm sorry, my number two, which has recently been replaced because it used to be my number one for years. It was probably my number one for years until my number one came along. My number two is the Rockers. That was another group that fed off each other in the ring. And the Rockers were, I think, for most of my life, the Rockers were my favorite tag team of all time. People were going to pick the Legion of Doom, Demolition Man, Demolition Man, the Dudley Boys. Nah, the Rockers, you talking about in-ring feeding off each other in dynamic wrestling. I'm gonna go with the Rockers. They used to be my number one until my number one came along. The most underrated tag team of all time, and in my opinion, the best tag team of all time is the world's greatest tag team.
They was that deal,
man. You talking about pure athleticism. I think that was a faction. Them and Kurt Angle was a faction that didn't get. It should have went much longer than what it did. Charlie Haas, Shelton Benjamin were two of the most insanely talented in-ring performers I've seen, and they didn't get the credit. They didn't get they didn't get the screen time. They didn't get the TV time that they should have got. They should have got TV time like the Hardy Boys, and they should have got that amount of screen time. But man, those dudes were dynamic. To me, that is my
Yeah,
favorite tag team of all time, the world greatest tag team.
but I don't think they got time because they mic skills weren't up to par. They lacked in the
I
mic
agree,
skills
especially
department.
Charlie Haas.
Yeah,
Charlie Haas isn't
so
the
that
best mic
killed him.
skills. All right.
Your list ain't bad, man. Your list not
Oh,
bad. Mine gonna be comparable. So my honorable mention is the Steiner brothers. They're gonna be my honorable mention. Like I agree, the way they work together is something different. Like when me and you play football, the way we can read off each other and play off each other, that's important. It's a big deal when you can play and do something with your brother, somebody you're real close to. You can see the connection on the mat with them. But my number 4 is one of your honorable mentions. Goldust and Booker
what about your
T.
5?
My five is your honorable one of your honorable mentions. Goldust and Booker T. That's my number 5.
Hilarious.
Not only were they dynamic on the mat, but they had that comedic side of it that like that was like phenomenal. So I'm gonna go with them in my 5. Then I got my Hardy Boys at 4. You know I love the Hardy Boys. Them was my dudes forever. Like I love Hardy Boys, love Jeff. He had that energy. And I agree with you. Matt didn't have the energy that Jeff had, and I think that was a downfall. Is that Jeff like he shot up so far past Matt, they had to break him up and let Jeff do his own independent thing. I think this is gonna happen again with a group that's in wrestling right now. One dude is just far superior. My 3 is gonna be the Rockers. The Rockers is my number 3 because to me the greatest wrestler of all time is a part of that group, Shawn Michaels. Right,
Not the greatest wrestler of all time, man.
Greatest wrestler of all time, Shawn Michaels. Right, the most entertaining wrestler of all time, Shawn Michaels. But they were a group that was doing things before anybody else was doing. They were moving so fast and doing some things that when they came you didn't see before in wrestling. So they took tag team division up to another level, especially being smaller guys because all the other tag team had these big bulky dudes, these huge, but these were 2 small dudes that could fly and do all kind of crazy stuff. So they my 3. My 2 is your number 1, world's greatest tag team. I agree with you. The most dynamic, skilled tag team in the history of the sport. Like what they did on the mat was crazy, bro. That's because they both wrestled in college. But I mean, there's a lot of wrestlers wrestle in college that can't translate over. But theirs is translated over so seamlessly. And Shelton Benjamin, he was so dope. But my number 1, I'm surprised you didn't even have it. My number 1, I'm surprised you didn't even have it as an honorable mention.
I know who you're gonna say. I know you say. Can I guess?
The Hart Foundation.
Hart Foundation.
The Hart Foundation.
I thought about that as you were talking.
How do you not have them even as an honorable mention, bro?
You're right.
Come on, man.
And as you were presenting yours, I'm like, man, I forgot the Hart Foundation. But I will put them below these 7. And the reason why is I think they set the foundation for what a tag team is supposed to be. I think if you're talking about the foundation of the true tag team, I'm gonna give it to the Hart Foundation. But I think these other groups took it to another level. I just think they took it to another level.
The Hart Foundation was the original world's greatest tag team. They were the original world's greatest tag team.
I agree with that.
They started this whole thing out with the technical skills, the movement, the in-ring, how they moved in the ring. They started that, man. They were just tacticians. They are the greatest tag team of all time, the Hart Foundation.
You know, and as you were talking, giving you a list, I was like, man, I forgot the Hart Foundation. But you know what? I would, honestly, because of their longevity, I would probably take out the APA and put APA as honorable mention. The Hart Foundation has had a longer longevity than the Hart Foundation had longer longevity than the APA. The APA, though, when they came in the ring, you was like, man, somebody finna get knocked out. That's why I like them, man. Somebody finna get knocked out.
But you also could have put the Road Dogg Jesse James and Bad A Billy Gunn, too. Because as a tag team, they was good as a tag team.
You know them was my guys, but I can't put them over these 8.
I can't put them over these bro. They was
my tag team. Like some people are going to watch this and say we should have put the Dudley Boys. I can't put the Dudley Boys there. Some people are going to say, what about? I guarantee we're going to get this in the comments. What about the Legion of Doom?
There was a
I
big
was
bulky dudes for that
yeah.
time. They were just
See,
bum rushing
I was one
people.
of the people who was never a fan, like I thought they were good, but I was never like that was not one of the group I loved. I love the Bushwhackers more than I love the Legion of Doom.
I was real
You know what I'm
close to
saying?
putting them on my list, bro. The
Yeah.
Bushwhackers. I was
So
real close, man. I put Bushwhackers.
I couldn't put the Road Dogg, Jesse James, them or the Dudley Boys. I can't put none of them over these eight. I
Yeah,
mean, what the Dudley Boys have? Devon, get the table. That was cool,
yeah.
but
They
man, I
had
can't
those
put them over
matches
these
against
eight.
the Hardy Boys and Edge and all those that were
Yeah.
like the best matches of all time, but whatever. But man, to anybody that's finna comment on our top five and like why they talk about wrestling, especially women, I want y'all to say this. I want to say this. Wrestling is a grown man soap operas. Let us have this moment, man.
Yeah.
Like y'all watch soaps, y'all watch y'all little those uh Wives of Atlanta and all that. Let us have wrestling, man. We know it's fake. We know it's fake. You ain't gotta tell us that either. We know it's fake. But that's our soap opera. Let us have that.
And the truth, there's going to be some women who are going to go down as some of the best wrestlers of all time. What's the young lady
I
from
agree.
AEW? With the white hair.
She just fine, bro. She ain't gonna go
But
down the
man,
greatest all time, but
she's
she a
gonna
beast.
she's had one of the
Jay,
longest. She has one of the long Jay Cargill. She has one of the
yeah.
longest reigns as a title holder ever. Nobody's beating her.
Oh,
If she
she
came to
fine,
WWE,
bro.
nobody would beat her. I think she
She
should play
fine, but man,
Storm in X Men though. I think
you
she should
can't
play
put her
Storm.
over China. You can't put her over China. You can't put her over Beth Phoenix. You can't put her over
Hey,
Trish
yes, I
Stratus.
can.
There's some people I no, you can't. No, you
They're
can't.
more famous. They're more famous. But if you put Jade Cargill in a WWE, she would destroy all of them. Every
No,
single
no,
one
she
of them.
wouldn't be. No, she wouldn't be. What's her girl name? Brock
Uh,
cousin. Not Tamina, the bigger one.
Kevin.
Can't nobody beat her.
Uh, Kevin. Nobody's beating Jade Cargill. The athleticism of that lady is ridiculous.
I don't care. Jay just fine. She's just so fine.
Yeah,
She's so fine.
but that's my top five, man. I still can't put. I missed out on the Heart Foundation. That was a crew. You know
For
my
sure
favorite
you
wrestler
did.
of all time, Brett. So
That's crucial. All right, man. Let's get into this topic, man. We're gonna do another serious one here. Very important one because it doesn't get discussed a lot, even though it happens every day, and it's a constant battle, and people out there fighting that battle, and they're on the front lines trying to figure this out and stop this thing. So today, man, we're gonna talk about human trafficking. That's both human sex trafficking and forced labor. So we're gonna dive into this because it really affects not the world, not just the world, but our communities as Black and brown people. I mean, it affects white people also, but I want people to know and hear how much human trafficking affects us and how serious it really is. We hear about it. We're like, man, that's messed up, man. But it's worse than what y'all think it is. It's so
mhm.
much worse. Y'all go to Walmart and all these places. Y'all see people pictures on these walls is missing. It's bad, people. It's human trafficking is very bad.
And I just want to bring up this is something that Kev has been discussing on Facebook and Instagram for a while. Check out his Facebook and Instagram where he talks about this. Also, check out Main Guardian for fathers of kids with autism. Check out those. I think he's doing a great job with that in his book he got coming out. But he's been talking about human trafficking and sex trafficking in our communities for a while now. And so I want kudos for him to want to shed more light on that for our communities and make sure we see if we can bring some of these people home. So let's jump off in and have you tell us a little bit about what is human trafficking and what should be why it should be at the focal point of the issues in our nation.
So there's two main sides of human trafficking, right? As I said before, there's sex trafficking and then there's forced labor. And I'll start with going on forced labor. Is when people are being sold to work, to do certain things, and to whether that's manage crop or be maids and butlers or servants to people. That's forced labor. That's the modern day version of slavery. Forced labor, human trafficking for forced labor is a modern day version of slavery. And as Black people that are listening to this, or brown people, who cultures have dealt with slavery, this should be important to you. You know the importance and what slavery did and how it affected people and how it crushed communities. And it's still going on today, but it's not being talked about. It's a problem that we must see and we must focus on, we must attack. But then you also have sex trafficking, which I think is the lowest of the low. Anybody who does sex trafficking is the lowest of the low of human life. This is where people are being sold for sexual purposes. And when you hear that, a lot of people think that it's just women. It's not just women, people. There are men being sold also into sex trafficking. It's deeper than what y'all think it is. And I want to really dive into. I'm gonna let you say so, but I really want to dive into it, where it happens, when it happens, how it happens, because I think some people might be surprised.
Yeah, and I really want you to get into that, but I also want to just reiterate something you said, because there's going to be people like that when you talk about the human trafficking side, forced work labor. They're like, oh man, it don't happen in the United States no more. We see that in all African countries. Yes, it does, people. It is happening. It's not only happening in the United States; it's happening in our communities, right? It's happening next door. And so to think that I know we hear so much about sex trafficking, but that forced labor trafficking is happening right in front of us, and we want to share light to that too. But like Kevin said, this sex trafficking is becoming an epidemic. It is becoming a major issue in our nation, and we are losing young women and young men daily to this epidemic. And like Kevin said, I'm glad he mentioned this, because I was going to mention, if he didn't, that this is really affecting our young men as well, and many people in LGBTQ communities. Right, this is affecting us as a whole and as a culture. So we just want to make sure you guys know that this isn't a phenomenon, that those pictures that you see at Walmart that are fake. We're losing young men and women daily to this epidemic.
And I'm gonna say something real quick. We're going to talk nationally about this, about what's going on in our nation and how it's affecting us. But I first want y'all to get this realization. If it's bad here in the United States that has policing, governmental entities that can help fight it, people that like resources to defend it, just think how bad it is in Africa. Just think how bad it is in some of these underprivileged locations, these third world countries. It's a worldwide epidemic. It's like COVID before COVID started. It's worse than you think it is. The chains of how it's done and manipulated links to nation to nation it's deeper than we really truly know. And once you realize how deep it is, your heart hurts. It aches for what this world is turned into and what it's doing. It really should bother you.
In one of our last discussion, we kind of broke stuff down as macro and micro, right? And so when we talk about it being a worldwide epidemic, or even a national epidemic, that's the macro piece. But a lot of people look at trafficking as a trans-border phenomenon, right? That people are going out of borders or going to other countries or other states and committing this and bringing it back around. There are people who are trafficking in our communities. They're not taking anybody over state lines. They're not taking people out of their own neighborhoods. We may be looking at a person when we walk down the street to the corner store as that person may be being trafficked, and they live in our community. We went to school with that person. They still in the community. Hey, I remember you. That person could be being trafficked. It isn't about taking people across state lines or to countries that it's happening directly in front of us. It is. I think some are getting emboldened. I mean, I think some traffickers are getting emboldened where I don't have to hide this. I have so much control over this person in this situation that I don't have to hide it. There,
is because
you'll probably talk about this either. There are husband and wives where one of them is being trafficked. Like it's deeper than what we give credit than what we think. And so I'm glad you wanted to bring this up and bring light to it. But I'll let you continue on what you were talking about.
yeah, 99% agree. But I want people to also listen to a quick statistic I want to throw out here. 40% of all human trafficking cases are Black women.
Mm.
Another 20 to 28% is Latino women. So we're saying almost 70% of all human trafficking is Black and brown women. That should alarm y'all. That should be something that a bell rings. Like I didn't know that. Something needs to be done about our community, and that's affecting our community. Almost 70% of human trafficking cases are Black and brown women.
For groups that only collectively make up less than 40% of our nation's population.
Crazy. And another statistic that came out that I thought was so baffling is that some traffickers that get caught, they stated that they go after Black and brown women because they know that they'll probably get less jail time for trafficking Black and brown women. They know that they probably gonna get less jail time if they traffic Black and brown women.
Wow.
That hurts, bro. That Black and brown women are looked down upon so heavily that they are confident that they're going to get less jail time. So, like what you said earlier, that it's becoming easier. They get more emboldened to do it. That's why. Yeah. That's why. There's no care that they're going to be stopped.
And can I connect it all? And I was going to wait to do this, but we talked about like being raised and the effect of our society and culture on our people, and we talked about that. We talked about the adverse childhood affect the ACE study and how childhood trauma and the levels of childhood trauma, how it plays a part. And we talked about that in our communities. We talked about that. We're going to talk about that with education. We talked about it a little bit, but the research shows that most of the people who are trafficked have high adverse childhood issues. They have high childhood trauma. They're being targeted.
Poverty, absolutely, poverty and everything.
They're being targeted. So education, trafficking, it's all connected around these traumas, which always go back to me, Cam. I think we need to deal with that. We keep talking about the mental health and mental stability of our people, and so there's a lot of things we just need to address. But don't let me get off track with the human trafficking.
No, let me say one thing before we move on. But I want to throw out a few more stats if I can that I find just baffling. First of all, this one. I don't want to say this. I want to say this to be wrong or to make it racial. I'm not trying to make this racial, but man, this is along racial lines. Sex buyers are disproportionately white men. Disproportionately white men by a huge margin. It's not saying all white men are bad. It's just saying when it comes to sex trafficking, a lot of the people that buy these people are white men. Now, this that actually was really baffling to me is that in South Dakota, Keith, what when you think of South Dakota, what do you think about?
Heavy white population and a small Native American population.
So in South Dakota, Native American women represent 40% of sex trafficking. 40%. And they are only 8% of the population.
Wow. I'm just writing these numbers down. This is insane.
8% of the population. Let me one more stat. This are people who live in my state, Illinois. People that's in Illinois. Matter of fact, not even Illinois. Cook County. Let's talk about Chicago. 66% of sex trafficking victims are black women.
How much?
66%.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not making these stats up, people.
2/3.
I'm not making this up. This is real. Sex trafficking is real. It's big. It's scary. And it's something that has to be dealt with. It's a lot of stuff in this world that need to be dealt with. Human trafficking should be at the top of the one of the things that's at the top of the list.
I agree.
It should be at the top of the list. It shouldn't even be thought about.
Oh, yeah.
So let's talk.
So
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. You go for it. Go for it.
No, go. I'm finna jump into another section. Go.
Right. Me too. So I'll let you go ahead.
Go ahead. No. Say it.
And so you put it down here as the modern day slavery and over sexualized reality. Talk a little bit more about that.
So we're selling people. Let's go back to the 1600s. Let's talk about slavery. People were taken from one spot to another land to be in forced labor, to work, to be beaten, to be treated terribly in order to please someone else. We're doing it to our women. People, these sex traffickers are taking these women, moving them around to work and do things forcefully. These women don't want to do this. It's not something to say, oh, this is a job. They're not getting paid to do it. It's forced labor. Now, this is. I'm glad you mentioned the sexualized reality, because this is huge, and a lot of rappers and famous people might hate what I'm about to say, but the increase of visual, I would say visual, the increase of hypersexuality being at the forefront of everything we do, I believe has increased sex trafficking. Girls showing their bodies all over TV, guys doing certain things to bring attraction to themselves. The over-sexualizing of everything we do in society, I think, has helped increase sex trafficking, because now when men or women, let me not say men, but or women see these things on TV, I want that. It's not. It's a form of greed. I see something that I want. It's coveting. I see something I want. Go give me that at all costs. They see it on TV. They see the girls shaking their butts and looking good, and I want that, and I want that at all costs. So I believe hypersexualized reality in the world we live in has allowed people to have this hunger and this journey to want something that they don't have, and to do what they want, do what they need to do to get it. Pay whoever it is to go find me this and pay for it, and I want them here, and I want to have this sex slave in my life, so I can have this every day of my life. I think we have contributed to this issue.
Yeah, and I would say we are a very hypersexualized society. I think mine is society. I think the world's hypersexualized, from media to culture, and so. But I want to say this if there is a trafficker that's watching this podcast, doesn't give you a right. Anybody partaking doesn't give you a right. Yes, we're hypersexualized. That doesn't give you a right. All right, to manipulate, doesn't give you a right to partake. It does not give you the go ahead to say, oh, because we're hypersexualized, I think I can do that. Now, I agree with Kevin that I think we've put the lust of the human body out there more and made it marketable. We've marketed physical lust. Well, we've marketed it. It's in our media. It's in our culture. But that doesn't give you a right to do something against somebody's will, to manipulate somebody. It doesn't give you a right. I just want to make sure I said that.
And I 100% agree. And it's like it's the question that got to be asked: who's worse, the slave capturer or the slave purchaser? Who's worse in the scenario? They both are terrible people.
Mm-hmm.
For you to know as a purchaser where that person came from, some purchaser even tell some of the traffickers, I don't want to know where they came from. Just bring me this. But you know what these people are going to do to get you what you need, because they want it's about money, right? It's all about money, and it's all about this yearning to covet what you don't have. But who's worse, the capturer or the purchaser? Y'all both are terrible people. Whether you try to break, go ahead.
No, go finish your statement. Because I want to say just.
No, I was gonna say whether you try to rationalize in your head or not that you're not the one going to capture the people. You can't rationalize that you're purchasing somebody for your own personal use.
No, I do want to say this though. I do want to push back just slightly, because not all attempts to pay for or accept sexual gratification is going to be done with somebody who's being sex trafficked. I want to make that clear. There are jobs where, and there are people who do these things for a living, right? But it is my opinion that many people who partake don't care whether it's a profession of that person or they're being forced to do it, right? They just want that gratification. So even though there are people who do this for a living, I don't think the John cares whether it's somebody being trafficked or somebody who does it for a living. But I just wanted to make it clear that there are some people who are not being trafficked who do this for a living. So.
But we have to be careful with that statement. You have to be very careful with that statement, and this is why. Because somebody is going to talk about prostitution. There's prostitutes out there that absolutely go out to prostitute because they want to prostitute. There's also prostitutes who go out there because they're forced to go out there. So just because a woman goes into a guy's room doesn't mean she wants to do it. Right? It could be something held over her head. That's human trafficking. Prostitution that is forced is human trafficking. Now, prostitution that's not forced and somebody just want to do it, I agree with you. There's some people that they do it for a living. This is what they want to do. Like there's brothels in Las Vegas.
Right. Most of that's not street prostitution.
Exactly.
Right.
They want to do it, right? But prostitution, I'm saying we got to be careful and because it's hard to determine to draw the line there, right? It's hard to draw the line. So for me personally, just for me, I'd rather draw my line on the side of it's wrong, period.
It's wrong, it's trafficking, right?
No, I'm not going to straddle the line. I'm not going to split the hairs.
And I will 100% agree with you. I think you caution on the other side, right? Because also when you think about prostitution, and you said not all women want to do it, there could be a woman that's not being pimped at all, that's not being trafficked, or a man that could be not pimped at all, not being trafficked, but they're doing it to get drugs, right? They don't want to do it because they're trying to make money. They're trying to make money to get something that's going to destroy them further, right? And so that's why it's better for us to err on the side of caution, and just help everybody in the situation, whether we know their full backstory or not. I think we err because it's becoming so great of an epidemic that we can't mix hairs. But the reason why I make that statement because I don't want those who are not in that profession to think that we're clumping them all together, right? But I think you're right. I don't think we can mix it, and we just need to, because we don't know. The best is try to help the best we can, and if it's somebody like I like doing this, okay, well, do your thing. But I think if we're going to help people, we're going to go full force, and there's going to be some people who enjoy that process, and some don't. And that's why I wanted to get it right, and that's why I wanted to get into you to see if you could talk about what are the elements of the trafficker and the victim. I think that's very critical because I think people need to know what are the signs of victimization when it comes to this. And I think sometimes we look at it as love, sometimes we look at it as just, oh, he's just a controlling husband. Like, but I think that's all a part of the problem.
So there's two different. I'm gonna categorize it in two different ways. There's two different sides of trafficking, right? When we're gonna talk about the victim on both sides, and we're gonna talk about the trafficker on both sides. Let's go with the one where everybody, when they hear human trafficking, what they think about, right? They think about that white van sitting outside that's grabbing people, throwing them in the van, tying them up, and sending them somewhere. That is absolutely a thing. I don't want to get on here and say that it's not a thing. It happens more often than not. And later I want to talk about for not just women, but for men and women, for how to, when you're in certain situations, how to handle it. But that is the case. So there's not I got to look at more statistics on what's the demographic of a trafficker and where they come from, their mindset. But anybody can be a trafficker in that sense of grabbing snatching somebody and throwing them into the van. I don't think that demographic is on either side of the coin. I think it's probably more equal than we think it is by whether it's a black or a white man or Latino man or Asian man that's snatching people and putting them in vans. I think that's probably more balanced. But the sign of somebody that's being trafficked in that situation is a little bit different than the other side of the tail. Somebody that's being trafficked on that side will show signs of discomfort. They will show signs of trying to fight. They will show signs of being very unhappy. They will seek to try to free themselves, right? That's a different, to me, that's a different side of the coin. And that's a very serious one because that leads us into how we're supposed to protect our women and our people and self-defense and things like that. But the other side of the coin is when you talked about wives, girlfriends, friends who are comfortable with their trafficker, the trafficker made them comfortable and feel happy and feel good, and then it turned into human trafficking. That's one of the biggest problems is our young men and women losing who they are and being trafficked by somebody they thought was close to them. I think more than not, that's the larger issue at hand than the body snatchers.
I would agree 100%.
So even in prostitution, you hear about it all the time. They fall in love with their pimps, right? They fall in love with certain people who they feel like he loves me, he gonna do his best for me. They end up being, oh, you got to go do this, you got to go do that for money. That's heartbreaking to think that somebody that you think loved you put you in the worst position you could be in. Just think about if your husband or your wife, somebody that you thought loved you unconditionally, told you, you got to go see with this person or I'm going to beat you or I'm going to kill you. Some go that far, I'm going to kill you. See with this person, I'm going to kill you. They going to give us money, kill you. That's heart-wrenching, man, to think that somebody that you love so dearly would do that. Just crazy.
And you know, and even if we don't take it to all the way to the marriage piece and we go to some men or women who may be going through things and somebody make promises to them, oh man, you're going through that, I'm gonna help bring you out of that, I'm gonna give you a place to stay, I'm gonna help you get a job. And they built that trust and they built that commitment, they used their charisma and they built all this trust, and then boom, once they got you, then they start having you have forced labor, forced sex acts. And so one of my concerns when I was doing research on this one of my thoughts is like, a lot of the targets are people who already had, a lot of women who have went through sexual trauma as children. It's typically a target. And so they play on the emotions of these people to say, oh, I'm going to give you, here's everything you need. I'm going to take care of you. Here goes money. And then boom, I snared you. And now the amount of love I've given you, you're captivated by it, and you want to continue to hold on to that. And so you will do anything for me that I ask you to do, to the point where I'm controlling you, have you do sexual acts with another individual. And so a lot of it is that level of control. And one of the biggest things, another one, I was talking about the childhood sexual abuse, but one piece that bothered me is I found out that where a large portion of these women are selected from domestic violence shelters.
Yeah.
Domestic violence shelters have a large number of women who end up trafficked because of their childhood trauma or their trauma they're going through with their spouses. And so it's this charismatic individuals who come up and like, I'm gonna show them they're people they say, I don't feel sorry for them. They made that choice. They were manipulated into that choice, right? They were offered the world. They were offered to get out of their circumstance, which a lot of us would jump at. If somebody say, "Look, I'm a help take care of you," it's like, how you gonna do that? We may be like, okay, all right, I see you. Oh, you work, and we may like fall in love with the opportunity to get out of our circumstance, and that's what happens with a lot of these women. They fall in love with the opportunity to be loved and to get out of a circumstance, and so often we admonish your daughter. I don't feel bad for them. Yeah, this is a manipulation tactic that is not cool, right? It's deadly. It destroys family, destroys homes, it destroys people, and it's all because these pimps or traffickers manipulating and finding this piece to tug on that person's heart and like, I got you. Now I'm gonna hold on to this piece, right? I'm gonna find the smallest piece and I'm gonna hold on to it so that you won't go anywhere. They're being manipulated, people. This is sometimes that's hard to overcome.
Yeah, I call them EPs, emotional prayers. And another thing you mentioned, like the poverty, let's think about it. Why do you think 40% are black women? Just like, and if I'm wrong about what I'm about to say, and some black women disagree, I'm okay with that. I'm willing to have a discussion. But the reason why it's 40% black women, what are black people known for not having? Fathers in the home. If you don't have nobody show you what love is, you go out seeking for certain types of love, and people prey on your emotions. That's what these people do. They prey on your emotions. They prey on you not having certain things that you need, and they know you're yearning for something, to feel something, and that's what they prey on. I call them EPs for that reason. But I want to throw you another stat. I like throwing stats in this thing, but you live in Texas. In Texas, per every 100,000 people in your state, 987 people are trafficked per every 100,000 people in your state. Now, seems like that number seems huge, but that's only 3.25%. Still, any percentage is terrible percent. And think about how many people are in Texas. Now, let's go to a state that doesn't have that many people. Mississippi. For every 100K, there's only 187 cases. But that's double Texas, percentage-wise. 6.32%. It's double. What's a major difference between the two? What's the population in the two? What's the demographic in the two? Pretty sure we know there's more black people in Mississippi than there is in Texas. Pretty sure there's more poverty in Mississippi than there is Texas.
We know that.
So this directly affects, like you said, impoverished communities.
Mm-hmm.
They prey on that weakness and not having and yearning and wanting. And it's sad, man. It's just so sad.
And I do want to make one small correction. What are black? You said what are black people known for not having? I want to say what we're stereotyped for not having because we changed
A
that. We
stereotype.
man, yeah, we
Agree, because
changed that,
we
man.
solid
We
dad.
gonna be
So
black fathers, and we gonna take care of our. We gonna do what we gotta do. We
I
not
should have
gonna let
said
people do it.
stereotype,
Yeah,
but I just heard.
but
I think I was watching the whole thing with Dion and how Dion said what he looking for a defensive player compared to an offensive
mhm.
player. Now thinking about that, he wants somebody that ain't got his dad. Was we can get in that on another topic, but Dion was
Yeah, we
totally wrong for what he
should
said.
because it's some people who responded to that. I'm a little disappointed in. So yeah,
He
maybe we
totally is
should
wrong
talk
in what
about
he
that one
said. So
next. So yeah, but I'm glad you brought the victimization of both men and women. Even though we know the majority of this is women, but also when you're just talking about those demographics and those stats, let's go back to South Dakota. Right? You said what percent? I wrote this down. 40%.
yeah,
40% Native American women. Right? What do we know about our Native American communities?
so impoverished.
Impoverished. It's which we need to do a lot about. I don't. Well, that's a whole nother topic too. Very
Well,
impoverished.
I studied them, so I know
Yeah,
a lot
very
about their
very
situation.
very impoverished. And so there's people. There's a correlation. There's a correlation. We're not just making this up. We're not just coming off the whim with it. There's a correlation. That people of poverty and people of color are being victimized at an extremely high level, at an extremely high
Uh,
number. And we're seeing it as, but here's the problem I don't want us to get into, Kev, is that we saying that, and it's the absolute truth. But people out there don't assume that this is a community problem, because the truth of the matter is, it's a national problem. And I'm gonna say this, and
world
maybe I'm
problem.
wrong. Maybe tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, but most of the Johns aren't in the community that that they're trying to get services from. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. Johns are coming from everywhere.
Everywhere, man.
They're coming from
Out the
everywhere. It's just
woodwork.
not within the community. Johns are coming from everywhere. And so our young ladies are disappearing. So let's share this though. You have trafficking that's blatant and right in your face. And you shared this, but I want to make it clear. There's trafficking that's blatant right in your face. Your next door neighbor could be being sex trafficked, right? Blatant. They're not moving out of the community. But y'all, we are losing black and brown young ladies every day. Parents cannot find them. Every time I'm on Facebook, I say, we have not seen her in weeks. Can you help us? If you see her, let us know. And I pray that, like, man, I pray that this girl is not going to be, that she hasn't been trafficked. I pray
One
that
out
they
of four
find
are.
this young lady. Huh?
One out of four of those you see are.
And that's why this is a trifold problem, right? This is in your face trafficking, kidnapping trafficking, and international trafficking, right? This is happening in several different ways. And until we realize what are the elements of a trafficker and what is elements of a victim, so we can identify those and help, we're going to still continue to deal with this problem. And we can't beat it until we identify it as an epidemic, and we continue, and then we try to realize what the elements are of these individuals, so we can say, hey, call the hotline, or hey, let me help you out. Let me help you escape this. We can't help somebody escape something that we can't notice. So we need to notice this stuff.
Absolutely. And I actually want to dive into something real quick about when it comes to what's the defenses for how do women or whoever is going to be traffic or somebody comes at them in some way, how do they defend it? And for the ones that are emotionally trafficked, that start with somebody that care about them, that's harder to say or to do or to tell them what they should do because people pull on their emotional string. But I would say in that case, know who you are. And for people that are around that know those type of people, let them know who they are. Let them know that they're loved by you. They don't need to find love in somebody who's going to do this to them or going to treat them in a certain way. Those type of people who are trafficked because somebody tugs on their emotional strings, it's more difficult to show them that it's not necessary, that they're loved by other people that won't do these things, because they get so enamored with a person that that's what they want to believe. They're so tight, that's what they want to believe. But I want to talk about other type of trafficking, like snatch and grabs or people that come. So I believe every person, not just women, but let's talk about women here. Every woman should take a self-defense class and know how to protect themselves. I think every woman or man should carry some type of protective piece with them, whether that's mace or whatever you need. But when it comes to snatch and grabs or warning system, so they have new things where you push the button and it makes a loud noise, something like that. But as far as in the moment, I wanted to say this, that a lot of people think when somebody comes to do a snatch and grab, the first thing you do is run. Now, if you're in a certain area where you need to get to a spot where people can see you, then yes, that's the case. But I want to just throw this out here. When you run, what do you do? To run, what do you have to do? You have to turn your back. Right? You have to turn your back, and now you have less defenses to defend yourself from a snatch and grab. So if you already in the area where there's people around and you have the warning system, you're doing all that, and they still try to grab you, women, I want you to face them. Face them. Because now you have means to fight them off. Once you turn your back and run, you have less means and ways to fight an attacker off. So face them, use your mechanisms, the sounds, the mace, some of y'all might carry a weapon. But face them. Don't turn your back unless you absolutely have to. If you have a chance to run and get to a space to where you can get to people and contact people, then do so. But if you don't, face them, face your attacker head on. Because once you turn your back and then grab you, it's so much harder to defend yourself. So I just want to throw that out there as a mechanism. And one thing I don't know if you noticed, and I've taught this to Kiera, when I was down there in Texas with you, when we went to Applebee's, you didn't notice that. You probably never paid attention to me. But where was I sitting? Did you know where I was sitting?
Facing the door.
I was sitting at the back, facing the door, and I had my eye on every exit. And I taught this a year. Whenever you go out, ladies, no matter where you go, never put your back to a door and always know where every exit is. The reason why I do it as a man is because I want to see everybody come in an accident. So if I do need to stand up and defend, I can protect, I can defend because I'm seeing it and I can react on it. So that's why I never have my back to a door and to an exit. Even in my boss at work, when we go out for lunch or something, she already know, oh, Kevin want to sit on that side. We're going to a conference room for a conference. Oh, Kevin going to sit on that side because I need to see the door. Because by nature, I'm a protector. So I want to see what's happening and I need to make moves that happen. So I tell that to all women. Like I said, I told that to Kiera, my stepdaughter, that never turn your back. Know where the exits are. So I tell that to all women. Never turn your back and always know where the exit to any building is. See people coming in and out. Know who, if you don't know where they are, to act suspicious, you'll be able to see it and read it if you don't have your back turned. I just want to throw that out there as a protective piece.
But I do want to make sure that the audience knows, anybody listening to this podcast, that we are major players in stopping this thing from happening. That women, if you're watching this podcast and you're involved in a situation where you think you may have been trafficked, we're going to give you the information and contact to help you get the resources to get out of that. But just know, all love is not real love, and be very cautious on who you give your time to. There are predators. There are people who are preying on your emotional wounds. All right, and it's going to take whatever piece they can to manipulate and control you. They're out there, and it's sad that anybody would do that, but they're there. Like I said, we're losing women every day to this epidemic, and young men to this epidemic because we have people out there who like to pull at our emotional strings, who like to find out where. Let me get this person to find out where I can control them. How can I get a hold of them? And once I get a hold of them in my spider's web, they're not getting out. And so just be cautious of who we're giving that energy to, and protect ourselves at all time. Make sure that we're protected mentally and physically, and know our boundaries, and know the evidence of somebody pulling at our heartstrings. A true person who loves you is not going to hurt you. Let's just throw that out there. Somebody who loves you is not going to hurt you. Somebody who loves you is not going to put you in a position to be harmed. They're not going to make you do something that you don't want to do. They're not going to manipulate you or force you into doing acts that you are not interested in doing at all. And so just know, I'm just going to throw this out here. Just know that you're worth it, that you're valuable, that your life is worth it, that your life is valuable enough, that you are awesome, young woman, young man in your own right. And that there's other people that can support you and help you get through whatever you're going through. And so make sure we're reaching out to those people, but don't let a person control your heartstrings to make you manipulate you into doing something that'll be detrimental to your life. And that's what these traffickers are doing. They are purposefully seeking out hurt people. They're purposefully seeking out hurt people to manipulate. They're cowards. Absolutely. They're cowards. And so be protective of your heart. Be protective of your emotions, and watch out for these people. They're there, man. Like we've been talking this whole time, that it's an epidemic. It's becoming a serious issue. And I want to show this map from Polaris. And I sent you the map from Polaris, right? And where their map shows the concentration of human trafficking in our nation, right? And where of course the red is the higher concentration of things. And what do you see that's critical about that map is that it's by population. Like it's not concentrated in one specific area of the country. It is concentrated exactly where the most populous areas of our country is. It's happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere. We're losing our young women daily to these predators, and we need everybody's help with stopping what's going on.
And I want to speak to the men. We talked about before when we did our marriage podcast, the provide, protect, and profess what men should do. And I just want to say, if a woman don't want you to provide for her, okay. If a woman don't want you to profess her love for her, okay. But no one can determine you protecting women. That has to be something, no matter what, that we own. That got to be one thing that nobody can tell me not to protect a woman that I see being harmed. Men, we have to step up and protect our women. It's no longer an option. This thing has gotten so bad that the men of this world have to stand up and say, enough's enough.
Mm-hmm.
We have to call out those dudes that are doing the trafficking. We got to call out the people that are purchasing the women that are being trafficked. But protecting our women cannot be an option. You can't pick and choose that one, men. That has to be something that's a must. No woman can tell me not to protect her. If I see a woman being harmed, I promise you, I'm going to stand up to protect her. I can promise you that.
We got to stop
No matter
walking
what.
past. We got to stop walking past when we see wrong. Because, like I said, this is happening in our community. We see evidence of women being trafficked, and we ignore it every
Right in
day.
front of our face.
Right in front of our face. We
face.
ignore it. That ain't got nothing to do with me. You've said it. You've said it. And we have to fight back for the young men and women in our communities who are being manipulated and controlled and being sold for worker sex. Right?
I'm glad you said men again, because we just really need to touch on this point one more time. And no matter what side of the line you draw, you fall on the LGBTQ community, it doesn't matter what side you fall on, whether you agree with it, disagree, it doesn't matter. They're being trafficked too, and they matter. They're humans. They matter. Care if you believe in what they believe or not, or agree with their lifestyle or not. If you see somebody trafficking somebody of the LGBTQ community and you don't step in, you're just worse as the people trafficking. You're just as bad. When you don't step in, you're just as bad. You are a part of the problem. So we're just not doing this for women. It ain't just for heterosexual people. This is for humans. Human trafficking is a terrible epidemic that has to stop. Human trafficking.
One thing we haven't said before we go, I just want to say one thing that we haven't said enough, though. There's one thing that we have not said enough in this podcast. People are dying because of human trafficking. People are losing their lives through human trafficking, whether that's being murdered by their pimp, their John, their trafficker, whether that's whether that's overdosing on narcotics. People are dying. This isn't just about people being sexually abused, which is serious, sexually abused, which is serious, but people are also dying. This epidemic is killing people, and we got to stop it.
Agreed. Yeah, and I also want to throw out a few before we go. A few organizations. One in particular, man, that I know for a fact. I know Tim Tebow is doing some big things on human trafficking. But A21 is a human trafficking group who's they're boots on the ground. Now, they're not people that's talking about it. They're not people that's like doing commercials. They are actually going into places and rescuing women, rescuing people that are trafficked all over the world. So if you ever have a chance to support or donate or look up A21, check them out. They're doing some miraculous stuff. They're saving lives, man. It's a big deal. There's also Polaris, like you said. There's 3 strands, Love 146. I mean, I can go on and on. We can probably post this list out there and the contacts for these places for anybody that needs it or want to support. But if you can and you don't have the time or the resource or the time to actually be boots on the ground and change things, if you got a few dollars to pour into some of these organizations, please do. Like, do what you can to fight human trafficking, whether it's $1 or $2. Every matter counts, especially for A21, man. Like, I think that's huge, man. Like, if I could, man, I'd be with A21 boots on the ground, going to places, knocking down doors, like rescuing people, man, if I could. But like, it's organizations out there that are really trying to change this thing, even though it's not getting the attention that it should be getting. It's bad, people.
People. Human trafficking is next door. That's all I want to say. It's next door.
Absolutely. Right now, you can go outside right now and probably see somebody being trafficked. And it's so sad that we just walk by every day and like it's just a normal day. Like Keith said, people are dying. People are dying. And people are losing their humanity through this process.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir.
That's all we got, man. I know this was a deep one, another deep one, but man, you know us, we gonna be deep. We believe certain topics are important to talk about, and we're gonna talk about them. We don't care what people think. If you don't want to hear about it and turn it off, it just ain't for you. But these are topics where we feel like they're national issues, they're community issues, and they're world issues, and we're gonna always talk about things that are relevant to changing hearts into making us try to be the best people we can be. Mm-hmm. So that's what this was about.
Yep. You know, teacher said, for each one, I did my job. All right? So we trying to reach y'all, man. Trying to reach y'all. So we want to thank y'all for giving us y'all time. Truly appreciate y'all, man. As y'all know, we love y'all, man. And we do these topics because we're trying to save lives. We're trying to encourage and uplift our culture, community, our world. And so do whatever you can to do the same. We love y'all. We hope y'all having a great week, and we'll catch y'all on the next one.
Yeah, and if you do have somebody that's being trafficked or are being trafficked, and you want to reach out to us, TuVues Podcast at gmail.com, TuVues Podcast gmail.com. We can get you resources. All right.
Yep, and we're gonna drop the hotline at the end of this video as well. So check it out.
I'm gonna put it at the bottom it's gonna stay there the whole thing. Y'all gonna have the information.
Yes, sir.
All right, TuVues, Kev G, Dr. Davis. We out of here.
Yeah.